Alright, it's DJ Self in the building, you know what it is, alright? Next up, my man Dr. Blake, he coming up here, baby. You know how we do right here on Power 105, huh? Let's get it gwinning. 800-585-1051 is the Gwynn God DJ Self. We in the building. Dr. Blake is here.
What's going on, my brother?
How you feeling now? Now, before we even get into anything, some people will be like, who is Dr. Blake? Can you explain to the people who is Dr. Blake?
Well, first of all, Dr. Blake, a.k.a. Dr. Blizzy.
Blizzy, okay.
The nation's hip-hop principal, is a longtime educator, community activist, and leader within the black community.
Okay.
My roots go all the way back to the Million Man March up to modern day. And I've always been one of those individuals who's been an educational reformer. In fact, I got the nation's hip-hop principal name because I took a low-performing middle school in Queens, which was the worst school in the district, made it #1 in reading, math, and science, and I used hip-hop. This is over 17 years ago.
Okay.
Hip-hop was the ingredient to get students to have voice, to get students to connect with the curriculum, to teach teachers how to relate to students. So before there was something called culturally responsive sustaining education, a term that they use in education, or implicit bias, we were doing that with hip-hop, connecting the dots, bridging the gap between the adults and the students. The results, #1 middle school, most sought after middle school in Queens, after being the school that nobody wanted their children to attend.
Wow. And what made you inspired to do that? Because some people would just be like, man, forget them kids.
I am those kids.
Okay.
I am those kids. I was that kid.
Well, you was the kids, but some people are like, yo, I'm an adult now, man. That ain't my kid to raise.
I never forgot who I was.
Okay.
And and then growing up, I grew up in the, what people would say is the golden era of hip hop. I grew up, listening to your Rakims and your Big Daddy Kanes, and I realized the impact and the influence that the music had on me. Like I give an example. I'll never forget I was listening to Sucker MC. I know I'm dating myself, but Run DMC,
no, that's fine.
Sucker MC. And
everybody from Queens, they feel like that's like the God, the Bible of hip hop.
It is.
Everybody from Queens.
Now listen, much respect, we know about the others, but I'm just talking about my childhood.
Okay,
I was on
you.
Jamaica Avenue, right? In front of at the time it was a place called Maze, and the guy played the song. And it was the first time I heard on record someone use the language that I use in my everyday life. When Run said the rhyme was deaf and it went this way, I was like, somebody said deaf? And I was like blown. And I had been listening to hip hop prior to that, but at that moment, it just connected to my environment and who I was.
Yeah, that's the time when you was going to go get you some shell toes?
All of that. All of that. Jamaica Avenue, Coliseum.
With the fat laces.
Yeah, all of that. And that was the environment.
Okay.
It wasn't that they informed the environment. The environment informed their music. And I think it's the same thing, in education, right? Like when I first did this thing with hip hop in the schools, people were saying, well, why are you going to play that? It's going to be disruptive. And they had a negative perspective of hip hop. Right, but most rappers will tell you that they rap about their environment. So my mindset was, well, why don't we change the environment and then have students rap about the new environment? The two are symbolic. They coexist. So that's kind of like was my approach and methodology. Like, let's lean in on what they love to bring them to the academic standards.
How important you feel is education? And just period. Now I want to say, I was going to say in our community, but just period, because sometimes I hear a lot of times people will say, well, I don't need history to get a job, or I don't need, certain things to survive in life. All I need to know a person, or, sometimes, I got all these degrees and I still don't have no job or a good job or things like that. So how important is education? And if you think it's important, why?
It's very important, but we have to make the distinction between education and school.
Okay.
See, a lot of times people look at school and they consider that to be education. School's a place where you get trained.
Okay.
Right? And it's a conditioning kind of process. And so you have certain students that are on tracks to be your next lawyers, doctors, engineers. You have certain students that are going to be students that work in the service industry, like your hotel industries. They're on that track. And then there's the school to prison pipeline track. School is only about training. Education happens everywhere.
Okay,
now,
understood.
School is supposed to be the facilitator of education, which is then supposed to help you kind of be a person that can make a way for yourself. It hasn't been that. And so if you really understand the history of education in America, real education, which is like the liberal arts, the music, the Shakespeare, all those things that people would say are the classics. That was reserved for a certain group of people.
Okay.
It was not for the masses of even the American populace. And when they were having this discussion on who would get what kind of education, and you can go back and research this, at that time, it was against the law to teach a black person how to read, punishable by death. So at that time, we weren't even in the conversation. And so this is why education in itself is like in this constant cycle of correction. So when people say, well, the school system is broken, I say the school system is in rotation. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do.
Okay.
Some go on to become captains of industry, and others are conditioned to a certain place in life that is usually either worker or servant or something of that nature. And some just get kicked out. Like I remember when I was going to school, some of the guys that I went to school with were so much more smarter than me, but they didn't fit within the box of the school environment. And so either they got forced out or they left.
What do you say to, and I'm dabbling with the education thing because you may have more knowledge. And a lot of times people say this to me, even about college. They say like college is like a big scam. It's like, oh, I'm paying all this money for college, but then, at the end, I'm owing all this money. So you trying to tell me I'm going to college to make money, but then I'm wind up owing money like when I finish college.
See, and this is why school has to be revolutionized, right?
Okay.
Like there's all these other industries that are coming into play now. Are we preparing our children to take advantage of what's going to be the new jobs, the new reality? You may not necessarily have to go to college for 4 years. You could, especially in this world of the internet and access to information, you could do a lot quicker. I remember when I was going to school, we would condition like you go to school, you go to college, you get a good job, and that was the mindset. But we weren't being taught like entrepreneurial skills, right? How to go out there and start your own business. I didn't know anything about how to develop an LLC until I was a full-fledged adult, and about tax and credit and all of these kind of things. So there is a lot of legitimate to that statement about school and college. I think you have to figure out what it is that you want to do, right, internally, and then use what's in front of you and access those things to educate yourself. And you can do it in a traditional way or a non-traditional way.
Well, how do I guess I'm saying you, Dr. Blizzy, how do you start changing that? Because I feel like in some ways you have the power to, even if not to change it, to spark the change of having these programs for the youth, to start a LLC, to start a business, to just to do things that most would say that they need, in their adult life.
So let me give you an example of what I did. So at this school, it was IS 109 in Queens, New York, right? This particular school, what we did was we had the students develop their own hip hop video.
Okay.
But it started out as me trying to get a message to them about actually uniforms. I wanted them to wear uniforms because I was trying to get control of the school, the environment, and then try to put them in a professional situation and setting. But from that, the students pressed back and say, yo, by you making us wear these uniforms, you're taking away our individuality. And I said, nah. At the time, the hottest rapper was 50 Cent, So this was like around 2003, 2004. And I said, I'm not taking away.
Sidebar, the best rappers are really from Brooklyn. Sidebar. I'm just in case you unclear. But
it's time for me to take a water break.
Yeah, I'm just playing with you.
So and so he was the guy, and he had a real life experience, and his that was authentic to him. However, they were conditioning all of our children, even if they didn't have that experience, to I'm the hardest dude out here. I'm the biggest thug or whatever. And I said, you're wearing a uniform. You wear the same white T-shirt, same pants halfway down your behind, same do-rag. I said, same scarf in your back pocket. I said, that's a uniform. I said, and it's being marketed to you, through pop culture. I said, so what we're going to do, I said, so why don't you, so that's what I said. And one of the students pressed me, and he really pushed me up against the wall with his response. He said, yeah, that's all good. He said, but if you make us wear this uniform, you're gonna make us targets because all the other neighboring schools are gonna think like we the suckers and we soft and they can come for us, and you ain't gonna be there when we gotta go home and come back and all of that. And so I just pulled it out the sky. I said, well, we're gonna make a hip hop song, and we're gonna make uniforms hot, like, and we're gonna make not wearing uniforms not hot,
corny.
And all the students just heard, we're gonna make a hip hop song, and they just went crazy. So now I'm like, oh, I gotta figure out how to do this because I really don't know how to. I didn't know how to anything about that. But that started us on a course. We made this song called "Time to Shine" at 109. Right?
Okay.
And the hook was Sean John, he's a friend of mine, but you can't wear his clothes up in 109. You better check the clock because now it's time at IS 109. It's about to shine. And the kids were like, Sean, we was doing the whole thing. So then the next year we decided, let's put image to it. So what we did was we made a video for the song, but the students produced it. And they had to do everything. They had to do the treatment. They had to figure out the budget. They had to figure out how to market it. What is the cost that we're going to sell it at? Make sure that we don't go over cost. Make sure that it's a price point that people will buy it. So now they're using what they're supposed to be learning in school, right? Math in a really relevant way, right? We taught them about how do you when you film and you storyboard and you shoot a shot, you may shoot the shot out of sequence, right? And if you shoot from a different angle, then you're getting, it's called the POV shot, point of view. When you write an argumentative essay, it's a point of view.
Okay.
When you write, you rewrite, you revise, you edit. When you film, you storyboard, you sequence, you edit. So now they're making the connection between being an effective writer and an effective filmmaker. So to me, it's always been about applying learning to practical project-based reality.
Okay.
So that, if it was today, if I was doing it today, if I was a principal right now, I would be bringing in the TikTok, bringing in the social media, figuring out how we can use the tools that they use on a daily basis, and then figuring out how we can teach them to not just be consumers or users of these products, but to develop these products.
Also,
right? How do we now we're getting ready to, the automation is going to be a big field. Right? How are we preparing the students for that? Everybody's talking about Bitcoin. How come we don't have classes where we're teaching students about Bitcoin investments and what does that mean?
What I was asking is how do we get to that? I think that us as urban people, and I want to say, we always say why we don't have the why, but what's the action of getting it done?
And I was just showing you how I did it. And I would say that the way that I did it, that we have to retrain educators to think differently about how they teach students, right? And then,
but how do you do that is what I'm asking.
You do that through professional development. You do that through engaging. I do it all the time when I go out and I speak to educators about ways in which to connect with young people. I have a show. It's called the class. Oh, this is a good chance for me to plug Classroom Hip Hop 101.
Okay,
right,
where can we find the show from?
On YouTube.
Okay.
And it's under that channel, right? Classroom Hip Hop 101. But I do something very unique, right? I take the story of 3 major hip hop artists: Nas, 50. And Jay.
And somebody else from Queens.
And Jay. I got a Brooklyn person in there, right? And I look at how Nas dropped out before going to high school. And in his documentary, he says his father and his brother sat down and had a conversation about it. That's mind blowing. Like most students that drop out, they kind of gradually drop out. He dropped out, had a conversation and said, no, it's better for you not to be in school. So I always pose the question to educators, what was wrong with the school that they didn't tap on the genius, because he's a genius as far as I'm concerned, mind of a Nas? What was missing? What was the disconnect between him and his teachers? 50 learned his business acumen hustling in the streets, right? How come there wasn't a business program at Andrew Jackson High School that would have attracted his mind? Because obviously he's into that. You can see by all the entrepreneurial things that he's doing now. So all these people are successful. And then what I do is I bring on hip hop artists to talk strictly about education and what their experience was as a student to an audience of educators to get them to rethink, because we have little 50s, Nas, Jays, and the list goes on of students who are in school right now who are not going to make it in spite of. They might fail because either you lack a relationship with them, either you don't have the kind of programs that are attracting their minds. So what's happening in the streets is more attractive than what's happening in the schools. We have to make school a place where they want to be. And the things that are happening there are so interesting and engaging, they don't want to miss out. I used to say to students, I used to say to teachers, if you suspend a student and the school is impersonal, cold, and nothing's happening,
you don't care.
They're like, yo, I'll go home. I don't need this. Like, why am I here? But if you have something that is dear to them, and then you tell them that you can no longer participate in this thing that is dear to you, then you get a different response. And so it's about knowing the culture, knowing what students are involved in. If I was in a community where it was all church community and there was nothing but gospel choirs, I'd be the gospel choir principal. I'm going to be what they need.
But like I said to you, my question is there a possibility, like even let's say teachers, that there can be like programs to teach teachers to teach these kids this before they even get into the school system? The reason why I'm saying that is because
the college prep programs.
I'm not an educator, so I can't speak. My knowledge is not great at this thing. That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm saying this is like, all right, a teacher is about to become a teacher. Is there some? I don't know what's the steps for a person to become a teacher, but let's just say, all right, Miss Jenkins is going to be a teacher now. This is the curriculum that we want you to teach. Who is that person that tells the teacher or the teacher that's supposed to, the new teacher, this is the curriculum that I want you to start teaching these kids, whether it's urban or anything like that. The reason why I'm saying that also, I guess it's just me, and I get very frustrated a lot of times. I walk on airplanes and different things, and people think I'm automatically a rapper or a basketball player. I'm not tall at all. You understand what I'm saying? But no one never look at me as I'm a lawyer or a doctor. You understand what I'm saying? So me saying that is like, I also, where's it where we teach urban kids that those things, especially a lawyer, like, most of us, a lot of budget go to the lawyer. You understand what I'm saying? It don't make a difference. Even if you're not a criminal, I didn't spend so much on lawyer fees. I've never been a criminal in my life. It's just entertainment lawyer or whatever. Even me working here at Power 105, I had to hire a lawyer to look over my contract. Exactly. My lawyer got paid. A nice chunk of change out of my budget. You understand what I'm saying? So where is those teachings to the urban people too, that all right, it's cool to be to dance and entertain, it's cool whether it's acting or whatever, but where's those I guess them essential jobs, you understand, that that we can use, because most of and I'm using lawyer or even a doctor as an example. When we go see a doctor or a lawyer, it's it's a Moskowitz or something like that, like where's the Walkers? That's what I'm saying. So
Jacksons.
The Jacksons, you understand?
Exactly. And you're absolutely right. I think so. To answer that question about how it does start with how we prepare and train teachers in these college prep programs, and there's a lot of conversations around that. Like, there's such a disconnect between the teacher training programs and what they're training them to do, and then they get into the reality of on the job, and what they were trained and prepared to do is nothing what they're going to face when they walk in. Because if you're not prepared to deal with the social reality, right, the cultural reality, what our children are dealing with, what they're going to present to you in terms of challenges, then you might have a great approach to teaching, or really something phenomenal, dope to teach them, but you can't get past the way they're coming at you. Then they don't respect you because they think, what does this teacher know about me? And it's just this major gap and disconnect. So I think that in these programs, they need to teach more about the reality of teaching in specifically, Black and brown environments with those kind of children, because they're going to press you. They're all going to press you, and that's the reality. And then also it goes back to two things. One is how the teachers are prepared, but at the very top of the school system, who is leading the instructional agenda for the school system? Because that person can be really creative and innovative in terms of doing the things that you said, putting more about the lawyers, economists, and breaking out into other fields that it's not just about basketball, become a basketball player, become a rapper, become a what have you. In my little small way, I tried to demonstrate that by doing two things. I used what they were into to pull them to where they needed to be. So I didn't negate hip hop or rap or basketball or what have you, but I didn't leave them there. Okay. So by the time they finished with me, like a lot of my former students now work in the music industry, but they work from the perspective of the event planner, the manager, the lawyer. They branched out to do greater things because they were doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. A lot of them learned how to really work like 4K cameras and do filming and editing, and so they work on projects. So it was a lane, and it reminds me of a brother who I grew up with. I went to high school and college with him. His name was Ed Woods. Okay. Right? Ed Woods was.
He's from Queens.
He's from Queens.
Yeah, no.
Me and him.
Everything that you do is basically from Queens. I'm playing.
I'm just joking with you. It's the realness, the foundation. If I die, I couldn't choose a better location. But anyway, he was my guy. God bless the dead. He was a strong brother, but he was vitamin E. When we were growing up, and it was a group called the Vitamin Twins. Okay, and he said he had his little stint as a hip hop artist or rapper, but then he figured out, wait a minute, I could make money, live the lifestyle of a rapper, and be an entertainment lawyer and represent the rappers. And what he went on to do was legendary. So again, it's about taking where their interests, tapping into that, and showing them their purpose.
Yeah, I guess that's what I want people to get from me and you. I guess as we talking, because I guess I just get bored with a lot of times we teaching the youth to be the rapper or different things like that. The reason why I'm saying that is just because a lot of times I guess the urban youth is losing their lives, and the people who are mostly profiting is the person that you never see. Even with me, I've had artists and rappers or young new artists will come to me all day. Yo, put me on, do this, and then I'll be with the guy that actually has quote unquote the bag or the signing power, and they leave him alone. You understand what I'm saying? It's like this is the guy that you understand what I'm saying? So I think that I don't know if that they purposely keep themselves hidden. But I also want people to know that that person that's in front of the camera is not making more money than that person that is behind. And then when I say behind the camera, super behind the camera, not the one that's filming it, but behind the camera.
Yes.
So that's that's just my thing.
And
you came here to promote something. I apologize.
Yes. No, but it was a great conversation. I appreciate the exchange. NYCSpeaks.org.
Okay, say it again.
NYC Speaks is what we're promoting. You can go to NYCSpeaks.org to find out more about it.
Okay, explain it to us.
So we just had a major election for the mayor of New York, and we have a new mayor now, in Mayor Eric Adams. And during his campaign, he constantly talked about he wanted to make decisions in partnership with community. He wanted to, bring government closer to community, like the communities and the citizens of New York. So as a result of that, a number of philanthropic organizations like the Robin Hood Foundation, the Ford Foundation, raised money to start a civic project, which I'm executive director of, to do a massive, actionable research project. And the focus is to really look at a number of issue areas in New York City that impact New Yorkers, and do the research in a way that it develops findings that the Adams administration, along with the new city council, can actually do something about it. Okay. So we're asking questions, not like, hey, what do you think about the police? No, we're asking like, so how in particular can we make like police community relationships better? What specific things would you do to improve housing or create more affordable housing in your community? Like, what are the needs? Things that action can actually happen on. And so our goal is to go out. 50,000 surveys throughout New York City is what we want to collect. And the purpose of this is to really push out into Black, brown, and immigrant communities in a way where we're getting this information. We're going to places like Brownsville.
Okay. Brooklyn.
I started with that.
Okay.
I know where I'm at now.
Let's do it.
I understand it. I understand the assignment.
I'm glad it took you 20 minutes.
So we're going out into places like Brooklyn, South Bronx, South Jamaica, Queens, all of these places with these surveys with real with canvassers and who are credible messengers in those communities to ask the question. The beautiful thing about the survey is that it was developed by New Yorkers from a diverse set of experiences, a diverse set of experts, ethnicity, and neighborhoods, right? So this is the first kind of research that is like, I call it the FUBU of research. Okay. It's for us, by us. New Yorkers created it, right? Black and brown people are involved in it. Black and brown people are going out to ask the questions, and then Black and brown people, after we get the survey findings, are going back to those very communities to interpret what the data says. Okay. So this is not like Harvard coming in and saying we did a study and we found. No, we're going in and saying, like, let's say housing. We're going to go back into a community and ask that community, did we get this answer right? Or did we miss something? Or was there a question that we should have asked that we didn't ask? So it's this whole collaborative approach of bringing government and the city together. And then we're going to deliver those findings to the entire Eric Adams administration and all those departments, from housing to police to education to cultural affairs, in a way that they can align their budgets and align their policies and practices with some of the findings in the study. And so I just left a meeting this week where I met with all the deputy mayors of New York City. I met with all the agency heads of New York City to say, this is what we're doing. They're leaning in, because if I'm the head of housing, I want to know, okay, so what are we doing wrong? Or what are we doing right? What do we need to continue? And so there's just this excitement and energy around now, not just saying this is what we're going to do for you. Okay. But you saying this is what we need, and then us having a conversation about how do we get there. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get everything that the report suggests, but if we can start to move the direction and move the needles, and people can see some of the things that we're talking about, we're now seeing reflected in the administration, it will go a long way, in my opinion, to build back trust. And the reason why I'm here, and I thank you, brother, Self, for allowing me to be here on your platform,
and talk about Queens.
And talk about Queens, okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. What up, Queens?
You want to say it one more time? Just
what up, Queens? Queens, get the money. But anyway, I just want to say that we can't do this without hip-hop. Okay. When people go out and we just did this whole thing about my love for hip-hop, and I bring that to this work, right? Like, hip-hop has a voice. This research is about giving voice to the voiceless. Hip hop is always giving voice to the voiceless, and so this is an opportunity for the hip hop community to be a part of taking the survey, raising your voice. We have a policy council. One of our policy councils deals with racial justice and equity, right? So we're looking at some of the issues that have happened with, police brutality and those things that we know we're impacted by. We need our voice in this moment. And one of the things that I know as a researcher is the power of research to move policy and change practices. Okay. They pay attention to that. And so not only are we engaged in doing this with adults, but we've already partnered with the New York City Department of Education and Chancellor Dave Banks. And what we're doing is we're starting an NYC Youth Speaks, and we have taken that same survey and we have modified it to language that grades 6 to 12 can understand. Okay. So this is an opportunity, again, not civics being taught in a class and you're just like learning about it, which they hardly teach civics anyway, but now students will get an opportunity to actually participate in a civic responsibility, and they are being encouraged to share their voices, and we're going to have community conversations with students around what do you want to see in your schools? What are some of the issues that you face when you get on the train coming from one neighborhood to the next? Why do you feel the need to protect yourself with a weapon? We're going to get into those kind of conversations, but we're going to compile it in a report in a way where we say to the administration, this is how we can make impact. This is how you should be spending your budget, and these are where the priorities items lie.
Okay. Can you tell them again how to get in contact?
NYCSpeaks.org. The survey is there. It's up. It's live. I want to encourage everybody in the hip-hop community, go take it. This is our moment. This is our time.
Got you. And then the YouTube page.
The YouTube page, The Classroom, Hip Hop 101.
Let's get it.
Let's get it.
All right. Queens get the money.
Queens get the money. What up, Brooklyn? No, I love my people from Brooklyn. I don't want y'all running me out of there.
Dr. Blake, thank you for coming through.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
800-585-1051, y'all.